Om Akhandam Satchidanandam Avang Manasagocharam Atmanamakhila Ashraye Bhishta Siddhaye. We have been studying here Sadananda Yogin's Vedantasara, and the last topic which we are studying was about the three types of relations through which the identity between individual and universal soul could be experienced in an unbroken, homogeneous manner, akhanda vritti. And there, the topic started from 148 sentence. There, the Sadananda says that atha mahavakyartho varnate. Now I will describe the meaning of the sentence Mahavakya. And that Mahavakya is Tattvamasi. Idam Tattvamasi Vakyam Sambandha Trayena Akhandartha Bodhakam Bhavati. This Mahavakya Tattvamasi becomes, it gives the consciousness, Bodhakam. It gives the consciousness of Akhanda reality through three different relations between the words Tat and Tvam. And then he described these three relations, Sambandha Trayam Nama, Padayo Samanadikaranyam, Padarthayor Visheshana Vishesha Bhavaha, Pratyagatma Lakshanayor Lakshya Lakshana Bhavascha Iti. This is about Padartha, about both. So, the three relations are, first is the application of the two terms Tattvam and Tvam at the same location. Application of the two words at the same location, that is the first Sambandha, Samanadikaranya. And Vishesha Visheshana Sambandha is the next. There, the application of the meanings of the two words. Application of the meanings of the two words in a mutual objective and adjective, noun and adjective, specified and special. That type of relation between the meanings of the two words is the second relation. Third relation is both between the words and between the meanings, referring to the innermost reality. We have to find indicated meaning. In both cases, they say the indicated meaning of the sentence, then we'll find the identity. And the same thing he has given a quotation from Taduktam Samanadikaranyam cha Visheshana Visheshyata Lakshya Lakshana Sambandha Padartha Pratyagatmanam iti, from the Naishkarmayasiddhi. Now here, before we enter the three relations, here is the point. Last time I told you that the traditional, so-called traditional Vedanta teachers describe this through the Vidwan Manoranjini commentary. And they say that these three are to be applied in turn. First, apply the Samanadikaranya. After some time, when your mind ripens, apply the Visheshana Visheshana, and then give up that and apply the Lakshya Lakshana Sambandha. And I told you that that meaning is not wrong, but there is a separate meaning. And the separate meaning tells us that all these three directly lead to Akhandartha Bodha. Our question is not anything else, Akhandartha Bodha. Our consciousness should assume an unbroken, homogeneous wave about identity between myself and Brahman. And for that, I have told you that next time, that means today, I will show you references from two places. I had promised that I will show you references from Chandogya Upanishad, and where Shankaracharya himself is talking about Vishesha Visheshana Sambandha. And then in practical life, I will show you quotation from the Leela Prasanga or Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master. So today, I have brought those books with me and I am going to show it to you. Before that, let me add, Sri Ramakrishna has repeatedly told in many places that the rishis of old had the Shanta Bhava. Let me explain here the difference between Bhava and realization. Many people confuse here. Gaudapada has made it very clear in the Advaita Prakarana, in the Vaidyathya Prakarana of the Mandukya Karikas. So, Bhava is the connection or relation we feel with God. That is Bhava. The type, Bhava is always in the mind. So mentally, we feel this type of relation. And realization is the culmination. We should never confuse between Bhava and realization. And I told you that Sri Ramakrishna has shown in his life that through every Bhava, he reached the Advaita. And for us, he has given a beautiful solution, that tie the Advaita knowledge in the knot of your cloth and then follow any Bhava. So, basis is Advaita, Bhava is our approach, and result is again that basis fructifies through the Bhava and we realize Advaita. We should never forget this. So, on this background, the rishis of old did not have Advaita Bhava. They realized Advaita through Shanta Bhava. It's very important. Before Sri Ramakrishna's advent, though it may be there in the past scriptures, before Sri Ramakrishna's advent, both the Jnanis and Bhaktas had this confusion. Bhaktas thought that Bhakti is only in the field of duality. It cannot reach Advaita. While Jnanis also felt that these Bhaktas dwell only in the dualistic field. At the most, what they call the qualified monistic field, they can never reach Advaita. And it was Sri Ramakrishna who showed that this is not so. Now, talking in terms of the Vaishnavas, Panchabhavas, Shanta Bhava is the first which Vaishnavas have declared. In practical life, we can call it Adharadaya Bhava. God is my support. That is the Bhava. And this God, the support, becomes the supported also. I will refer to you Mundak Upanishad, where two birds are described on the same tree. And the lower bird reaches slowly, gradually, the higher bird. And when it reaches very near the higher bird, what is the scene changes. And the lower bird experiences that I was never there. Only the upper bird and his shadow. Upper bird and his shadow was there, and that shadow has melted in the upper world. So everywhere in Vedanta, this is described that there is an approach and there is a reality. With this background now, I turn to Chandogya Upanishad. I told you, Chandogya Upanishad, please note down or open the book. I had requested you people that those who have these books should bring those books. So, if you have brought Chandogya, for Chaturtha Adhyaya Ekadasha Khanda, and no, that is no, I shifted wrongly, please, sorry. Chaturtha Adhyaya Dashama Khanda. Chaturtha Adhyaya Dashama Khanda, Mantra 5. In the commentary, what is the mantra? Kam Brahma, Kham Brahma. And the sadhak asked the Guru, what is Kam Brahma and Kham Brahma? Then they were told, the Agnis told him, Yad Vavakam Tadeva Kham, Yadeva Kham Tadeva Kamiti. Shankaracharya says the meaning is that ka is the adjective of ka and ka is the adjective of ka. Which kam Brahma? That which is ka. Which ka? That which is kam Brahma. In that way we have to take the meaning. And kam means happiness. Kam means akasha. Now, see what is the mutual relation. I take up this portion of the commentary, Nanu. Nanu is not here doubt, huh? Nanu is the reply. Sukha-kashayor uvayorapi laukika sukha-kashabhyam vyavrittir ishte iti avochama. Sukha and Akash, they are told as mutual adjectives. Now, what does it do? The Laukika Sukha is removed. If Sukha, if Akasha is the adjective of Sukha, it will not allow the subject-object pleasures. Laukika Sukha. Akasha will make the Sukha all-pervading, continuous, and so it is only Brahmananda. And if Ananda qualifies Akasha, it will tell that this Akasha is not Jadakasha. Akasha is consciousness, which itself is bliss. So the mutual difference is removed by this. In ordinary case, what happens? That blue lotus, if you say blue, it removes the other colors. If we say lotus, it removes the other flowers or other things. Mutual difference remains. Blue does not become lotus, lotus does not become blue. But in this case, Sukha and Akasha becoming adjective of each other, Sukha removes the Laukika Sukha, that which was differentiating it from Akasha. And that Akasha removes the Laukika Sukha. And Sukha removes the material Akasha. So, Laukika Sukha Akasha Bhyam Vyavrittir Ishte Iti Avachama. Sukhena Akashe Visheshite Vyavrittir Ubhayaro Artha Praptau Evaiti Chet. That means one side was sufficient. The objection is that one side was sufficient. Sukha is Akasha. Why again Akasha is Sukha? Satyamevam किंतु सुखेन विशेषितस्य एव आकाशस्य ध्येयत्वं विहितं न तु आकाशगुणस्य विशेषणस्य सुखस्य ध्येयत्वं विहितं स्यात्. Then what will happen? That Sukha becomes the adjective of Akasha and we are asked to meditate on Akasha. But that is not the only thing. When Akasha qualifies Sukha, then we have to meditate on Sukha also. And together we can meditate on Sukha and Akasha. That will remove the mutual difference. Visheshana upadanasya visheshya niyantritvena eva upakshayat. So Visheshana qualifies the Visheshya and it gets finished. So meditation is about the Visheshya only. Ata khena sukhamapi visheshyate dheyatvat. So Akasha also becomes adjective of Sukha, because Sukha also is an object of meditation here. The Shishya is asking, how do you say that? Kam shabdasya api Brahma shabda sambandhatmakam Brahma iti. This kam is Ananda, which is the nature of Brahman. Yadi sukha guna vishishtasya khasya dheyatvam vivakshitam syat kam kham Brahma iti bruyo agnaya prathamam. Agnis would have told him, kam is kham, that's all. Na chaiva muktavanta kim tare kam Brahma iti. Ato brahmacharino moha apanayana. To remove the moha or doubt from brahmachari, Kam shabdayor itaretara visheshana visheshatva nirdesho yukta eva yadvava kam ityadi. Same words are there. Visheshana vishesha. So the Agnis told the brahmachari that let both of them become adjectives of each other. That which is come, that which is come is come. Tad etad agnibiruktam vakyartham asmat bodhaya shrutiraha. So that very thing which the Agni is told, Shruti is telling us that, etc., etc. Sukha guna vattva nirdeshat tam cha akasham sukha guna vishishtam brahma. Thus, so what happens? Sukha is akasha. Akasha becomes the space in our heart. And space in our heart, Acharya has been repeatedly telling the name of Brahman itself. There is not a separate space. So when Sukham is Akasha, that Akasha is not the outer space. Akasha is the space in the heart which is Brahman itself. And when Akasha becomes the adjective of Sukha, Sukha loses its worldliness. So this is the first reference which I promised, Chandogopnishad Acharya's commentary. And any sub-commentary of Sadananda Yatis cannot supersede what Acharya is telling. That is my submission. We accept the Vidwan Manoranjani. One method is karmika approach, but the other method is that Vishesha Visheshana Bhava. Acharya so beautifully explained that how it leads to same meaning, identical meaning. Again, this was the 4th adhyaya, 10th section, 5th mantra. Now I go to 5th adhyaya, 11th section, 1st mantra. There the very words Atman and Brahman appear. Here the words were Sukha and Akasha. And by mutual relation, they removed the contradictory to each other portion and revealed the identity. Now here, in the 5th Adhyaya, Ekadasha Kanda, 1st mantra, the very words Atman and Brahman appear. And this we have found throughout all the Upanishads. They never distinguish between the two. In the same mantra, Atman and Brahman come, or sometimes it starts with Atman, ends with Brahman, starts with Brahman, ends with Atman. So, here, my 4 brahmacharis discussing among themselves, they say, let us go to Ashwatarashvi. They came together and were discussing Kona Atma Kim Brahma iti. Kona Atma, what is really our Atman? Is it Brahman? Like that. There Acharya's commentary. Katham Kono Asmakam Atma Kim Brahma iti Atma Brahma Shabdayor Itaretara Visheshana Visheshatvam Brahma iti Adhyatma Parichyannam Atmanam Nivardayati Atma iti cha Atma Vetiriktasya Adityadi Brahmana Upasyatvam Nivardayati. The mutual difference is removed. So, when Atman and Brahman becomes adjectives of each other, then when we say Brahman, then that limited sense about the Atman, enclosed by my body, that goes away because it is Brahman. And when Atma becomes the qualification of Brahman, then the remoteness goes away. Or Atma, Aditya as Brahman, symbolically, remoteness goes away because Atma is the qualification of Brahman. So here again, Acharya taking the 2 words themselves has told us, Nivartayati abedena atma eva brahma, brahma eva atma, iti evam sarvatma vaishwanaro brahma, sa atma iti etat siddham bhavati. So that which is the Atman of all, Sarvatma, called Vaishwanara Brahma, that itself is Atma, Atma is Brahma, becomes proved. So in these two portions in Acharya's commentary, we have found that the Vishesha Visheshana Sambandha removes the mutual contradiction and proves the identity. Now, this is through examples. Our question is, what about our practical life? And for that, I told you, we will refer to Sri Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga, in English, Sri Ramakrishna the Great Master. That is the scripture of scriptures. That is the greatest scripture. Because my Guruji told me that in all other scriptures, Rishi's experience comes to us as ideas and words. But here, all those experiences are seen in a man of flesh and blood. Because our aim is not to get some idea of Brahman. Our aim is to get that consciousness in this human body and mind. And so that is more important. There, detailed description by one of the greatest rishis, Swami Sadananda, were having this book. The lesser said about this greatness of the book, the more you say, it is insufficient. I again tell you, this is the greatest scripture. So, now, there are 5 parts in the scripture. The second part is called Sadhaka Bhav, Sri Ramakrishna appearing as a sadhak, and there in explaining what is sadhak and sadhana, the very first chapter in this Sadhaka Bhav. Before that, there is a introduction that away, yes, divine incarnation in sadhaka. Chapter 1 is sadhaka and sadhana. First is divine incarnation as a sadhaka. How it is so? Introduction, no, the heading was given wrongly. First there is called introduction, Avataranika, and then second in number, but chapter number 1. That is sadhaka and sadhana. And there, we refer to para 11. Refer to para 11. There he says, this kind of samadhi is called in the scripture Nirvikalpa Samadhi. We shall tell the reader elsewhere how the aspirant on the path of knowledge makes the effort to know what am I, how he attains the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, and what kind of experience he has at that time. Now, the reader should be told a little of how the aspirant on the path of devotion arrives at the realization of that superconscious state. We have designated the path of devotion as the path of this, iti, because immanence is felt first. For although the traveler on this path has the actual knowledge of the transience of the world, he knows world is Kshanabhangur. He believes in God, its creator, and has the conviction of the reality and existence of the world created by him. His logic is not from the analysis of the world. God I believe, God I love, and it's God's creation, so that much reality it has. The devotee looks upon the world and all things and persons in it as related with God. And makes them his own. They are own because they are God's. He shuns whatever he believes to be an obstacle on the path leading to the realization of that relation. Vairagya, what type? If anything obstructs my relation with God, that I give up. Otherwise, the remaining part of the world I take as my own because it is God's. It becomes the devotee's immediate ideal to become absorbed in him through the love of and meditation on one of his forms. So here some form is taken, and in the footnote Sadananda Swami has explained, the Nirakar also is a form, unspecified form. We are not going to that discussion now. And also to perform all actions out of love for him. So meditation and love for a particular form, particular avatar, or I told you forms are of three types. Divine forms like Shiva, Vishnu, and the human forms like Ramakrishna or Ramakrishna, Jesus, and the unspecified form which is called the Nirakar. So everything action is done for him. And we love him, and this love is going to remove the differentiation. That is the real love. And meditate on him to make the mind concentrated. We shall now discuss how one can, forgetting the existence of the universe, reach the nirvikalpa state of consciousness by being absorbed in the meditation on forms of God. We have said before that the devotee accepts as a chosen ideal some particular form of God and continues to think of and meditate on that form. He cannot in the beginning bring before his mind's eye at the time of meditation the complete picture of the person of his chosen ideal. Step by step he is explained. We have taken a chosen ideal, but we do not see the full form in our meditation. Sometimes the hands of that mental picture, sometimes the feet, and sometimes only the face appears before him. These again dissolve as it were as soon as they are seen. They do not continue to stand before him. As a result of practice, when meditation becomes deep, the complete picture of that form appears before his mind's eye. When meditation gradually becomes deeper, the picture presents itself to him in vivid and unbroken continuity as long as the mind remains steady and unswerving. Afterwards, according to the progress in the intensity of meditation, the devotee becomes conscious of the movement, the smile, the speech, and ultimately the touch of that living form. Then the devotee sees with his eyes open or shut, the benign and living presence of the Lord and his graceful movements everywhere and in all conditions. So without his meditation, that becomes filled in his mind. The devotee aspirant gradually comes to have also the visions of various divine forms springing from his own chosen ideal as a result of his faith that his chosen ideal has out of his own accord assumed all forms. The master used to say, a person who has the vision of one such form as a living presence gets easily the vision of all other forms. One thing is clear from what has been said before. One who has the good fortune to have the vision of such living forms feels that these forms pertaining to the realm of ideas and experience during meditation have as real an existence as things and persons of the waking state. So, realism of the world is gradually vanishing. First, that world is real, but these bhava experiences are equally real. That is the first step, change of consciousness. Concentration, appearance of the forms, etc. leads to this, that the experience of the waking state and the experience of the bhava state have equal reality. Thus, as the feeling deepens that these experiences of the world of ideas are as real as those of the external world, the conviction that the latter also are a projection of the mind is intensified. So, you see, the mutual relation, how it is throwing the light that our realism of the world also is only a mental idea. Because the mental experiences are equal to this in reality. So, it throws light on this. This is only like the mental. It is not fully real, like shadow. The latter also are a projection of the mind is intensified. Again, during deep meditation, the experiences of the realm of ideas become so powerful in the mind of the devotee that it does not have the slightest knowledge of the external world for the time being. So, external world becomes excluded during that bhava experience. This condition of the devotee has been described, designated by the scriptures as Savikalpa Samadhi, because there is no word. Savikalpa because sadhak is separate and the ishta is separate, but it is samadhi, total absorption. This, although owing to the strength of his mental power, the external world vanishes from the mind of the devotee at the time of such samadhi, the realm of ideas still persists. So there is a dual division, realm of ideas, that persists. The gross world goes away. His experience of the chosen ideal in that world of ideas and the joy he derives from it are in no way less intense and real to him than that of the waking world and its contact with men and things in that world. So that joy also has been brought in, Kam Brahma. All the ideas, without any exception, that arrive at that time in his mind have only a chosen ideal for their object. The scriptures have called that condition of the devotee's mind as Savikalpa Samadhi because at that time the series of the mental modification of the devotee have only one thing as their main object. Main object means sometimes I am playing with him, sometimes like that, like that. Main object is he. Thus the gross external world vanishes from the mind of the devotee owing to the meditation on a particular object of the realm of the ideal world. For when one idea becomes dominant, all other ideas disappear. The attainment of the Nirvikalpa Samadhi is not very remote from this devout aspirant who has been able to advance so far. Masterpiece by Sadananda Swamiji. His own experience and his analysis of Sri Ramakrishna's experience. Thus, the mind of the person who gets rid of the belief in the existence of the external world to which he has been accustomed for an infinitely long time becomes endowed with much power and discrimination. The whole of his mind goes forward with enthusiasm in the direction of the enjoyment of divine bliss. Now, the word is enjoyment. The original Vaishnava word is sambhoga. It is union. Becomes more intense if the mind can be made completely free from modification. Once when there arises the conviction, that is the shift, shift from Visheshana Vishesha to Laksha Lakshana. The conviction arises that the joy I am getting will not go away. It will be more if the two become one. That conviction arises. He then ascends to the higher plane in the realm of ideas by the grace of the teacher and God and establishes himself firmly in the non-dual knowledge and attains eternal peace. Now, substitution, or it may be said that the very intense love for a chosen ideal shows him that plane, and urged by it, he realizes identity with the ideal like the gopis of Braja. He has given this example. In the Bhagavatam and all scriptures dealing with gopis, including Narad Bhakti Sutra, the gopis became identified with the object that is Shri Krishna, so much that they did not feel they are gopis. They started telling each other, I am Krishna, play with me. Each gopi has become Krishna. So, through the Vishesha Visheshana through the love. The Panchabhavas means apart from Shanta Bhava, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya and Madhur. And apart from the Panchabhavas, all other bhavas, that is God is my mother or father, all these end in Advaita. That is the clear description in the life of a sadhak by Swami Sadananda. So I think I've shown you the reference Shankaracharya's Bhashya in Chandogya, and in practical life, Sardan Swamiji's description of the sadhak who follows the path of devotion, how gradually the consciousness changes. That is equally real than this. Then, is this real? That becomes more real. This less real. And then, this is forgotten. Forgotten is not the last point. This becomes forgotten. And then, he feels that if I get that, the joy will be more. So he goes into knowledge. Or the very intensity of the love makes him merge and he realizes identity. So, in this way, now something I wanted to tell. I took up the class on Vedantasara for this particular purpose. That I knew. I am not as an individual. Let me call it the Nagpur school of thought. Let me call it what I learned from my Guruji and whoever has learned from him. That I am going to add certain thing to the traditional understanding of Vedantasara. For that only I took up this Vedantasara. And 3 places I have dealt with that up till now, if you remember. First is this Adharopa Apada. 2 different meanings of Adharopa and Apada I have told you. The traditional meaning is we have to superimpose and we have to remove. And what my Guruji taught me is that we have to understand that it is superimposed, showing that the reality is transcendent, and then seeing that that very reality is this, which Sri Ramakrishna has called Neti Neti and Iti Iti. That was one point. Another point in dealing with the Adharopa, we should not die in the details. I have seen people, I have seen books. Please do not get angry with me. At the end of the Hindi translation published by Ramakrishna Ashram Nagpur, unfortunately, at the end, Panchikaranam, half of this, 1/25th of this, madness. I told you that day that this cannot be divided like this. The only meaning is that this is the major part in that we understand. The trend in the whole Adharopa chapter was to understand that this is all Maya. And Apada tells us this is all Brahman. No details. Details are provided so that we feel about everything of the world. That is the purpose of detail being provided. Detail of this came out and that came out and that came out is all given. This is made of that and that is made of that. We do not go into the details at all. The details are meant to show us the 2 sides. One is that everything is made of Maya only. Everything is unreal only. And the second side is that Apada, everything is Brahman only. So first point is that do not trouble yourself by the details and the mathematics of the detail. Let us understand that the trend is to show us that everything is unreal, everything is Brahman. First point. Second point, just now I told you, the Adharopada path, second meaning. And third was this most important point, that not necessary that we go by these crumbs. Each of these can, if the attitude is proper, if the vairagya is proper, if the love of God is proper, then each of these relations ends in Advaita. So, these are the 3 points which prompted me to request the university to continue my class on Vedantasara. Anyway, it is becoming too personal. So now we go back to Sadananda Yati, and once more we can read the description given by him. We go back to 151. Samanadikarane sambandhastavat yatha soyam devadatta iti asmin vakye tatkala vishishta devadatta vachaka sashabdasya etatkala vishishta devadatta vachaka ayam shabdasya cha ekasmin pinde tatparya sambandha. Example is taken as soyam devadatta, and so is devadatta of that time. Ayam is devadatta of this time. But both are referring to the same person, Devadatta, Samanadikaranya. Tatha cha tattvamasi iti vakya api parokshatvadi vishishta chaitanya vachaka tatpadasya aparokshadi vishishta chaitanya vachakatvam padasya cha ekasmin chaitanya tatparya sambandha. Aparokshadi, parokshadi vishishta tat, remote. Aparokshadi vishishta tam, near. But this mutual relation, this goes away, and both of them are referring to Chaitanya only. Both of them are referring to only Chaitanya, so Samanadikarana Sambandha. Visheshana Vishesha Bhava Sambandhastu Yatha Tatraiva Vakye Sa Shabdartha Tatkala Vishishta Devadattasya Ayam Shabdartha Etatkala Vishishta Devadattasya Cha Anyonya Bheda Vyavartakataya Visheshana Vishesha Bhava. Anyonya Bheda Vyavartan is the main thing, and we have seen through Shankaracharya's commentary how it becomes. तथा अत्रापि वाक्ये तत्पदार्थ परोक्षत्वादि विशिष्ट चैतन्यस्य त्वं पदार्थ परोक्षत्वादि अपरोक्षत्वादि विशिष्ट चैतन्यस्य च अन्योन्य भेद व्यावर्तकतया विशेषण विशेष भाव भावा लक्ष्य लक्षण भाव संबंधस्तु यथा तत्रैव स शब्द अयम शब्दयोर तद अर्थयोर वा. Here relation in the words or in the meanings both. विरुद्ध तत्काल एतत्काल विशिष्टत्व परित्यागेन अविरुद्ध देवदत्तेन स लक्ष्य लक्षण भावा. That portion of the meaning which is contradictory, please remove. That portion which is not contradictory, we retain. That is called the lakshana. तथा अत्रापि वाक्ये तत्त्वं पदयोस् तदर्थयोर्वा विरुद्ध परोक्षत्व अपरोक्षत्व आदि विशिष्टत्व परित्यागेन विरुद्ध अविरुद्ध चैतन्येन स लक्ष्य लक्षण भावा. 153. इयमेव भागलक्षणा इति उच्यते. This is also called भागलक्षण because one portion of the meaning is retained, other is given up, so it is called भागलक्षणा. अस्मिन् वाक्ये नीलम उत्पलमिति वाक्यवद वाक्यार्थो न संगच्छते. While giving the example, we already examined this. That the equivalent sentence is Swayam Devadatta, not Nilotpala. Now, from this, people jump to conclusion that Visheshana Vishesha is wrong. Now, in Lakshya Lakshana also, he has told the wrong Lakshanas. So, because there is a wrong Lakshana, does not mean Lakshya Lakshana Sambandha is wrong. So, because there is a wrong application of Visheshana Vishesha, one should not conclude that Visheshana Visheshana is wrong. So, Nilotpala, I have already told you, Nila removes other colors, Utpala removes other substances. They do not remove the mutual contradiction. So, the lotus may be blue, but the always remains two things. Tatra tu, in Nila Kamal, sentence is all right because there are two. तत्र तो नील पदार्थ नील गुणस्य उत्पल पदार्थ उत्पल द्रव्यस्य च शौक्ल पटादि भेद व्यावर्तकतया अन्योन्य विशेषण विशेष रूप संसर्ग से अन्यतर विशिष्टस्य अन्यतरस्य तदैक्यस्य वा वाक्यार्थत्व अंगीकारे प्रमाणांतर विरोध अभावात् तद वाक्यार्थ संगच्छते. There the Neela removes the whiteness, etc. and Utpala removes cloth, etc. And so the mutual bhed is not removed. So, and the sentence is all right, Blue Lotus, like that we cannot have in Tattvamasi. Atra tu tat padartha parokshyatvadi vishnu chaitanyasya tvam padartha aparokshyatvadi vishnu chaitanyasya cha anyona bheda vyavartakataya विशेषण विशेष भाव संस्कारस्य अन्यतर विशिष्टस्य अन्यतर तदैक्यस्य वा वाक्यार्थत्व अंगीकारे प्रत्यक्षादि प्रमाण विरोधात् वाक्यार्थो न संगच्छते. So here in practical life, God is my master. We forget that God is my master means I am God's servant. So both my ideas of God should change, both my ideas of myself should change. This is the mistake which devotees commonly do. They do not apply the change on themselves. And Sri Ramakrishna has described this as raw I and the ripened I. I should not be defined by this body. I should not be defined as so-and-so's son, so-and-so's father, so-and-so's husband, etc. I should be defined as God's or something. Let it be whatever thing. So, definition of I change, God becomes nearer and nearer. Swamiji in his Bhakti Yoga has explained that in Jnana Yoga also, that the Christians have a prayer, my Lord nearer to thee. The Hindu will adopt it by telling, my Lord nearer to me. So we are bringing the Lord nearer to us in our experience. And we are making ourselves as nothing but attached to God. This mutual difference vanishes. So there, like Nilotpal, this sentence cannot be understood that this removes something and that removes something. No. So the defect in applying Visheshana Vishesha, one-sided. Their lotus has not become the adjective of blue. Blue has become the adjective of lotus. But here in Tattvamasi, both have become adjectives of each other. So that is the great difference. Taduktam, sansargo va vishishto va vakyartho natra sammata akhandaika rasatvena vakyartho vidushammata iti. From Panchadasi has quoted that only sansarga means touching. Vishishta means qualified. That vakyartha will not do unless we get the akhanda artha bodha. So I have seen how the akhanda artha bodha comes. Now, he shows the defects of Lakshya Lakshana Sambandha wrongly applied. Atra Gangayam Ghosha Prativasati iti Vakyavat Jar Lakshanapi na Sangachate. Indicated meaning is got by giving up entirely the meaning of the first part. That does not apply here. Example is taken, the cowherd village is in Ganges. Common talk. Where is the cowherd village? In Ganges. No, it cannot be in Ganges. That meaning is totally given up. And we understand cowherd village is on the banks of the Ganges. Here the meaning in the Ganges is totally given up. And the indicated meaning comes by different bank of the Ganges. So there it is all right in Gangayam Ghosha. But in Swayam Devadatta or Tattvamasi, this giving up the meaning means I am not there. Brahman is all, I am nothing, this will not do. Or the other side, I am Brahmasmi. I cannot become Brahman. the contradictory meaning of I has to be given up, not full meaning. Contradictory meaning of Brahma should be given up, not full meaning. Tatratu explains, Ganga Ghoshayor Adhara Adev, this is Adhara Adeva Lakshan, half taken. लक्षणस्य वाक्यार्थस्य अशेषतो विरुद्धत्वात् वाक्यार्थम अशेषता परित्यज्य तत्संबंधी तीर लक्षणाया युक्तत्वात् जर लक्षणा संगच्छते. Just लक्षणा means giving up the meaning and finding indicated meaning. अत्र तु परोक्ष अपरोक्ष चैतन्यकत्व लक्षणस्य वाक्यार्थस्य भागमात्रे विरोधात् भागान्तरमपि परित्यज्य अन्य लक्षणाया अयुक्तत्वात् जद लक्षणा न संगच्छते. But in Tattvamasi, only some portion is contradicting, so give him the whole meaning will not do. Now, some way is found out here. I'll take it up on the next term now. This Bhaga Lakshana or Lakshana wrongly applied, the description continues and we shall take it up in the next term. Today we have seen by Guru's grace the Acharya Bhashya. Recently I found it out in Acharya's own words. Kam Brahma, Yadeva Kam Tadeva Kam, Yadeva Kam Tadeva Kam, and then directly the Atma and Brahma Shabda, how Paraspara Veda, Itara Veda is Paraspara Veda, how that Vyavartan takes place. When Atma becomes adjective of Brahman and Brahman becomes adjective of Atman, and in practical life, how it happens, that also we read through Great Master. Let me add one or two more words. Emphasis, I have been telling from the beginning. If one understands this emphasis and the great Vedanti which the Ramakrishna mission had, Jagadananda Swami, the recent past president, Atmasthananji, I heard this from Yogatmananda, who is preaching in Providence. When Yogatmananda was in the training center, Atmasthananji learned his Vedanta from Jagadanandaji. And he told the trainees that Jagadanandaji clearly used to tell that the only difference between Shankara and Thakur and Swamiji is emphasis. Shankara has emphasized transcendent Brahman. Thakur has emphasized both transcendent. For the comparison, let me bring before you one more Mahapurush, which is not so much known to other people than Maharashtra. And that is Gyaneshwar. When Mahapuruji sent my Guruji to start the Nagpur ashram, he told him, I am sending you to Maharashtra. Make a study of Gyaneshwar. You will find perfection there. So one Mahapurusha's perfection certified by another Mahapurush. And Gyaneshwar has laid more emphasis on the immanental part. Absolute immanence. Advaita Bhakti. Shankara has described Advaita Gyan. And some people go further and say, what Swami Vivekananda has done is Advaita Karma. And Sri Ramakrishna did not emphasize any particular aspect. He used to say, sometimes I am in the Nitya, sometimes I am in the Leela. Transcendence and immanence given equal importance. One side Shankaracharya, one side Gyaneshwar. Sri Ramakrishna has reconciled both of them. And so, one more point I will tell you. Now in the 7th mantra of the Mandukya Upanishad, as much can this Brahmanubhuti be described, is described there in the whole literature of the world. Now, after a lot of negations, Nanta Pragyamna, Vaishpragyam, etc., Ekatma Pratyasaram. And that is Gyaneshwar. Gyaneshwar has given the example of Ellora caves. Ajunta, Ellora caves. There, the central rock called the Kailash rock has been carved in such a way that Pujari, Puja and deity all are carved from the same rock. And Dhaneshwar Maharaj says, suppose this become conscious. What produces consciousness? This is Ekatma Pratyaya. Next word is Prapanchopashamam. This is Bhagwan Buddha's declaration. He realized the same Advaita. But the main point he emphasized was that the manifold world goes away. And the last word there is Advaita. Advaita word is not coined in opposition to Dvaita and Vishishtadvaita. Advaita means subject-object difference is not there. And that is what Shankaracharya preached. So harmony in several ways we can see. And we can say Sri Ramakrishna has reconciled all that. And his all disciples are like that. After that, if we harp upon the old thing, sorry, I am. Om Akhandam Satchidanandam Avang Manasa Gocharam Atmanam Akiladharam Ashraye Bhishta Siddhaye Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpana.